All right, and welcome to Hat-Trick Sports Talk, my second episode of the week. Along with me, as always, Shane and Brandon. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
What up?
All right, we have a lot of fun topics to get to today, but we are starting with some breaking news that literally came out an hour. Yes, literally an hour before we started recording. We're recording at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Jamal Adams has informed the Jets that he wants to be traded. This was the inevitable. We talked about Jamal Adams about a month ago now. It seemed inevitable that it was time for him to part ways. He's also listed 7 teams that he would like to be traded to. That's from ESPN's Adam Schefter. The list includes the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Texans, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Seattle Seahawks. Best fit for Jamal Adams out of those 7 teams. Again, Ravens, Cowboys, Texans, Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, and Seahawks.
So I'll go first. Ravens kind of surprised me because I think
Brandon, I think your mic cut off again, man.
is it good now?
Yes.
Okay. So Ravens, I don't think so.
They don't have cap to get him.
They
I'll
don't
say that
have
right
cap.
away.
Cowboys, sure, but he'd be kind of wasting his talent. I mean, 49ers, yes, but I don't want him to go there.
Cap. He can't go there because of cap.
Yeah.
Same with the Chiefs.
Honestly, the only team in that list is the Seahawks that I legitimately – Seahawks have ton of cap. They still have open spots. They have
And maybe
players
the Eagles.
they have – yeah. But you have to remember the Seahawks are the team out of all of those that has cap and is also in a position to make a solid push if they pick up someone like Jamal Adams.
Now, as I've talked about before, the Cowboys have expressed interest. So for the Seahawks, let's start with them here. Are you prepared, Brandon, to give up a quality offensive lineman or 2 to get Jamal Adams?
Yes.
You are prepared to do it because that seems to be his value.
The reason being is the Seahawks have a large stash of linemen that they've acquired over the offseason. And frankly, I believe we have enough of a stash of linemen that we could give up 1 or 2 good players to acquire Jamal Adams. Because this is a guy I've seen play a lot, and I don't think there's been a player on the market who's interested in being traded that I've been so impressed by and wanted so much. Like, even more than Clowney. Like, I think Clowney's great, right? But Jamal Adams has proven that he can go every single day of the week. Like, he also doesn't get injured that much, you know?
No.
So I wouldn't say go crazy. Like, obviously don't, throw the freaking kitchen sink at him. But, you know.
So again, as I mentioned before, the Cowboys did give, or the Jets made an offer to the Cowboys last season, which was 2 of their top offensive linemen and I believe a first or second round selection, which seems to be a little bit much. But that's kind of why I say the value I think is offensive linemen, because I think the Jets obviously need O-line, and so I assume that's what the Jets are hoping for. But as this keeps dragging on, that might change. Shane, you mentioned the Eagles. Let's move on with them. Where do you think he would fit in with the Eagles defensively, and also what value do you think the Eagles could give up?
I don't know what exactly they would give up, but they're one of the teams. The reason I say the Eagles is mainly because they have the cap room, but also the potential for winning and being really good. I just don't think that you're going to get that with any of the other teams except for the Seahawks. So, um, you know, I could see him going to either one of those, but I mean, those are, it's an interesting set of teams that he uh, is interested in. I think that the Eagles, at least defensively, they have. I mean, they have a decent defense, of course, but um, the secondary is kind of an area that they need to fill after losing what's his name, Malcolm Jenkins. So, yeah, that would be a great pickup for them, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This will be interesting to see what exactly does happen.
Again, I do feel like the Chiefs, Ravens, and the Niners are out. I don't know if they have enough cap to get him for a season. There might be a chance, but it seems slim. But as for the Cowboys and the Texans, it is very interesting to me that he is interested in going to Texas in some form. Texans would be fun. I wonder if they're in a semi-rebuild mode, and we will get to the Texans a little bit later, but when we do our division preview, but of the AFC South, of course. But I think that could be interesting. I think the Cowboys thing seems to be the most likely scenario, considering that's the team who's negotiated with the Jets the most. But I don't know how willing both sides are of restarting the negotiation at this moment. But yeah, so let's move forward. I did want to talk about Josh Gordon applying for reinstatement. He will get reinstated. But I wanted to talk about his impact for the Seahawks last year. What to you guys did you feel was his impact last year? And what could he do if he comes back to the Seahawks next season?
Well, so here's the thing. We've talked about this already. Josh Gordon is someone who he's not expected.
Sorry, Brandon, your mic continues to, for some reason, glitch out.
Not expected. What the fuck? He's an old veteran at that.
Yeah.
I think he is someone who is just expected to come in and be someone to make the big plays, like every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see where what would be wrong with the Seahawks being like, you know what, we can pay him a small amount of, like, a little bit of money.
It'd probably be like maybe a mil and a half.
Right, which is not huge compared to some of the other players. And he does bring a big weapon to the team. I mean, you look at the games when he was on the field. He gave Russell another deep ball threat.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had like three. He played only a couple games that he had like 3 50-yard catches, yard receptions in each game. So,
Shane, what's your feeling on Gordon being reinstated?
Yeah, I mean, more than anything, I just want to see him play some more. It's last season, I mean, like Brannan said, he only played a few games, and in those few games, you could feel his presence because it was, and like you say, just another target. I mean, he has two good ones in Lockett and Metcalf, but in this league, in this day and age nowadays, you kind of need three receivers, three good guys almost, and he definitely has that ability. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that he will get reinstated, and yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's very, between the three of them, you got a lot of variety. I mean,
Mhm.
they're all very well rounded, I think. So, yeah, I mean, I guess now it's just a matter of time, really.
I do think this is another piece you're missing. They did add Philip Dorsett this year as well. So it's really four
True.
guys. Dorsett, maybe more of a in-cut kind of guy, not as much as a deep route player, but he can do that. It is a nice receiving core. I think Josh Gordon's role has definitely diminished over time, and I feel like it will continue to be less and less valuable, especially if he goes back to Seattle just because Dorsett is there. But he has a place on the team, I think, and could make some kind of impact, as you guys said, as that deep threat in those type of situations. But again, I've never really felt, other than 2013, he's really been, that type of Josh Gordon. 2013, Josh Gordon's a much different player. So, and I think more people are starting to realize that over time. He's just not that same kind of player, but he can be a deep threat when you need him to be. And I think that's where he can be important.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not as good as he used to be, but he can still be a difference maker when it counts.
Yeah. So Shane, I wanted to start with you with this as well. So we got the Rams and the Chargers are going to be on Hard Knocks. So it's going to be Hard Knocks all in Los Angeles. This was reported a few months ago as like a rumor. I think we talked about it, but I'm not exactly sure. In terms of the whole situation with COVID-19, as a filmmaker yourself, I know this is much different as documentary filmmaking, but how do you think they're going to approach Hard Knocks from a filmmaking perspective with the much different circumstances surrounding filmmaking as a whole right now?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I imagine. I mean, it's going to be a smaller crew, that's for sure. There's probably. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just two people, a guy with a camera and then a boom operator, just going in there on the scene doing their thing. And it's. I think it's interesting that they're doing, regardless of filmmaking. I think it's interesting that they're doing both of the LA teams, because I don't. I mean, do they ever do two teams in a season? Because I
They've
don't.
never done it. This is the
No.
first time.
Yeah. Which I mean, if you're gonna do that, this would make sense, obviously. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it because I want to see how things are looking inside the Rams locker room, because I feel like they're kind of in a strange place as a franchise after being in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and now they're kind of on this downfall, in my opinion, and just seeing how everyone's handling that. And then, of course, the Chargers and their rebuild, and not knowing who their leader is, if you will, and the way that will be handled. Yeah, Hard Knocks is always a time and a half. So yeah, well, it'll be interesting. When is it coming out again?
Yeah, it's going to be late August, so I would imagine
Okay.
around like a month
Yeah.
from now.
Well, the question I have is, like, how are they even going to do Hard Knocks this year? Like, do we even know if we're going to have actual training camp?
Right, but they've already started filming, I would
Really?
imagine, because
Yeah.
you do realize that they start filming like on draft week or even before
Yeah,
the draft somewhat. So
true.
they've already started filming something. And even if we don't have training camp, coaches are coming back to the facility, or they have been the last 2 weeks. There is something to be said also just to see how teams are affected. You can actually probably see that like in the
Right.
locker room and like the players that do come into the facility. But Brandon, are you excited to see both of these two LA teams, as Shane laid out, with these different sort of situations in
You
terms of
know,
who they are as teams, I should say?
I think both of the teams are boring to begin with. I think the Rams were boring when they did Hard Knocks last time. But I will say this: I'm kind of intrigued to see what's going on with the Chargers, because they went from this team that really looked like they had a solid chance to run their division for a while to just meh, you know?
Yeah.
They both did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
I look at the Chargers and I think like it's about getting Herbert on the right footing. If he has a good year, if he plays at all this year, but if he comes in and really lights it up, this team looks much better than it looks right now. It's really all about quarterback play if you want to put it down to one.
I don't really see Herbert playing though this year.
I have a tough time, as we talked about last week when we did the preview. It does seem. I look at what the Dolphins are doing with Tua, and it is weird that Tua seems farther along than Herbert at this moment in time. So I wonder if it's just that they want to be committed to Tyrod Taylor, or if they feel like, or if I don't know. Because to me, looking at Tua's progress, because it's looking more and more likely that he will start Week 1, whether you agree with it or not. I don't see why Herbert doesn't start then.
Well, see, the difference is, for me, in Miami, do you play Fitzpatrick, who's, he's proven that he can get yourself a couple wins, or what exactly are you risking by putting out a hot new talent in Tua? You have nothing to lose in Miami. You have been the joke for a long time. Like, think about what narrative changes if you put out a hot quarterback like Tua. He goes out there, maybe throws 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and leads the team to a good opening day win. Think about how different of a narrative that immediately sets for Miami. You compare that to a team like
LA.
the Chargers, who, even though they've not been amazing, they've been kind of considered to be middle of the pack-ish. I feel like, here's my thing with Tua and
Herbert.
Herbert. And this is the first time I'll ever admit this. I believe just because of the talent level between the Pac-12 and the SEC, Herbert is not as advanced in terms of having to read higher level defenses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say it. Like, Tua is probably going to be closer in terms of being able to read defenses, all that stuff, better, having played against better caliber defense, and more players who make it into the NFL from on defense. However, there is the whole thing about no Alabama quarterback doing very well.
Yeah. But Tua is much different, I think. Because I don't think Nick Saban.
I do think that if there's Nick Saban is terrible at developing quarterbacks, but I do believe that Tua, if any quarterback will break that sort of curse, it'll be Tua.
Because he's much more pro style than any of those other guys.
Yeah. But it'll be an interesting thing to watch. That would have been a team I would have been down to see. I would have loved to have seen Miami.
Yeah, Miami would have been a fun team as well. For sure. That might be the case maybe next year or the next few years, because, I mean, I don't think they're going to have a winning record this year. So
I think they'll do better than they did the year before. I think they're going to beat – here, my hot take, I think they're going to beat New England twice.
I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think Stidham is that great. So I think Miami has a chance to definitely double up on New England this year.
Because they beat New England once the last 2 years, so
they have to be the most competitive team in the AFC East when it comes to playing New England anyway.
Yeah.
So I do think that they can definitely win both. And I agree with you. Yeah. I think they will win both.
Yeah.
We talked about Kyrie Irving on yesterday's show with Cole and I. We did want to touch on it a bit on this show as well. Brandon, you and I had a very interesting conversation on Kyrie Irving wanting to skip the Orlando restart or pushing
Yeah.
his teammates to skip the restart, as well as suggesting to start their own league with the Brooklyn Nets players. What is your thoughts on this situation?
Well, as I said, I think this is kind of Kyrie just trying to mess with LeBron a little bit. You know, Kyrie Irving always thinks he's a little bit better than he really is, and thinks he has a little bit more say than he really does. I just feel like of all the leagues that you're gonna try and play the league doesn't support African American players card, the NBA ain't it. This ain't the place. This
No, it's
ain't the
absolutely
league.
not.
This ain't the people to try and pull that on. And it's been the moment he said it, you saw like so many high level players, ex players, legends, current players, basically be like, "What the heck is he talking about?" Because this is a league that has basically built themselves on supporting African American communities and supporting the players, supporting what they stand for. I mean, are they perfect? No. But are they better than the NFL, NHL, MLB? Hell yes. Personally, I feel like this is and you know what also has me like really not paying him any mind at all? He is injured on the Brooklyn Nets. Like, what do they expect to do this season? They shouldn't even yeah, they would have been in the playoffs, but like they would have gotten their butts kicked by some top tier team and then been out in the first round. Talk to me next season when you have an actual team.
I mean, you have Dinwiddie, you have Jared Allen, you got DeAndre Jordan there. You still have some pieces, but yeah, it's not a team that's gonna win a title or compete right away. No.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned yesterday, I mean, I don't think you can disagree with what Kyrie's saying, because when you have 80 players in a call, you have to be doing something right. But again, as you've mentioned very well, that this league is incredibly progressive, and they can still be playing in Orlando and focus on creating change. I mean, they've done that for years. They've played games, but they also focus on these very important social justice issues. I think the safety concerns should be much more of a worry for these players than the social justice issues at this point, because I think the NBA can continue to do that even at a more powerful level in Orlando with the platform, as we talked about yesterday as well.
I kind of want to just touch on that for a second. Like, you have some of these players being like complaining about being like, "Oh, we're gonna be in a bubble," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're gonna be in a bubble, but you're essentially gonna be in a Disneyland bubble. Like, yeah, you can't go to the park, but you're literally staying on one of the resort properties. They're bringing in magicians, bringing in bands, bringing in not magicians, but they're bringing in like all this stuff. They have anything they can do. They can golf, they can practice, they can play ping pong, they can whatever. Yes, it sucks that they have to be there for 3 months.
And without their families
And
is
without
probably the
their
biggest
families.
concern.
But like, they're the ones who have pushed to finish the season.
I mean, the NBA and the NBA and the NBAPA has clearly been focused on finishing this year.
They want to finish the season, but the NBAPA, I'm sure if the players had been like, you know what, nah, like we don't really care about finishing the season, the NBA could have been like, okay, whatever, like we'll just like find a way to wrap it up quicker. But like, I get it, but it's not like it's again of all the leagues that has actually been open with anything, like NBA again has been more open than. I mean, like the NHL has a plan, but like since they put out their first like thing, we haven't heard anything from them.
Well, they're in phase 2, or in July 4th around there. Like July 4th weekend, they're going to be in phase 2, which is training camps. So we're getting closer, but we're not completely there. Shane, how are you feeling about Kyrie Irving and what he's proposing and the whole new league thing as well?
I mean, I think it's kind of bizarre, to say the least. I mean, I don't. I really don't understand what he's trying to accomplish with this. Because I mean, I doubt it's going to happen. And even if it did, I mean, would it even catch on? No. So I don't know. It's just bizarre. I think there's a lot more. There's obviously a lot more to starting your own sports league than he probably realizes. And
I mean, agents tried to do it in the 2011 lockout, and it was virtually impossible.
yeah. So, I mean, best of luck to him, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of weird. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know what his true, reason is for this. Who knows?
So you're more confused than anything.
Yes,
Yeah,
that would be correct though.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the MLB. I wanted to bring this up. I know we've been talking about the proposals, but I kind of wanted to change up what we're talking about in terms of the proposals. How do you think the media coverage of these proposals, I know we've been talking about it for 3 weeks to a month now, but how is the media reporting this proposal? And I know every day it seems to change. One day we feel like we might have a season, the next we don't. And then the PA on Wednesday said the report that they're making progress is false and all this stuff. How do you think the media reporting it has done to these negotiations? Has it made it worse in your mind? Shane, I'll start with you actually.
Well, yeah, I don't know. The whole, I don't know, all this back and forth is just kind of, it's kind of frustrating, really. I don't. I mean, like you said, 1 week they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have a season," and then the very next day it's like, "Nope, that's deal's looking harder and harder." With all that in mind, it's like I'm still not very optimistic. Because if they were confident that there would be a season, I feel like there would be more of a, I guess, like, what's the word I'm looking for? There would be
confidence.
Well, no, I think there would just be less speculation from everybody.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. Yeah, it's just really, really weird. Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not too hopeful yet, but I mean, we'll see. Crazier things have happened, so.
Brannan, how do you feel the speculation, especially in the media, has changed these negotiations, or has it at all in your mind?
I don't know if it's changed negotiations. I think it's given talking points to teams. I think having the media be involved has given teams the ability to cry about it a bit. I also think the owners have used the media to be dumb themselves. So I would say I think the media has kind of been they've been used, I would say. And the reason I say they've been used is because the media has one role and one role only, or they should, which is to present the information to the public.
And to have an opinion
And to have an
as a
opinion
separate thing.
in where an opinion is correct to be given. I think in this case, it's become kind of like a divorce, sort of, where one side says something to the child to get them to like them, and then the other side says something to the child. Except in this case, the information is being given to the media kind of to get the public to be on their side. at this point, I think we're going to get a season. One way or another is going to happen. I mean, or at least I thought so, because I thought they had settled on 60. At least we're at this stage. At least we're at the stage where they're like willing to say, we will give you your money for the games played. Just please sign the dang contract.
Yeah.
And now the players are coming back with 70, and it's a thing.
I mean, it seems like we're getting closer to spring training 2.0. There is a report that came out that they probably are going to start on June 29th, which seems, or at least that's the goal. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to have to wait till probably past July 4th for that to happen, which is unfortunate because July 4th weekend would be a perfect time for the MLB season to restart again. I think we can all agree. But the media, in terms of the reporting and things that we've heard and talked about over the last month, it's really been difficult because you don't really kind of know what to believe. Like the idea that a reporter would come out, they're ahead on a deal, and then whoops, they're not. Like, I don't really understand. Like, it, as you said, Brandon, I think that's a good way to put it. It's kind of like a divorce, where it's like one side's kind of trying to win over the other, or win over a little kid with whatever. I think that's a great example in the sense that it's winning over the media also translates to winning over the fans to believe one side or another, right? As you mentioned. But that's what's so frustrating to me. It's like they're putting this stuff out there, but it's making it look worse. I feel like it's making it look worse than it actually is. Like, at least it seems like they're ahead, but at the same time, they seem like they're ahead one day, and then the next day they seem behind 2 steps. They seem ahead 1 step and then behind 2 steps literally 2 days later or a day later. And that's what's been most frustrating.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Also, Brandon, you also had some thoughts on the Yankees, the 2017 letter that's being in district court right now, and they're hoping to unseal the Yankees. Rob Manfred gave a letter to the Yankees regarding their investigation of sign stealing in 2017. What has been your thought on those reports that have come out in the last week?
I mean, inevitable, I would say. I think at some point they're going to come out and say, I think at this rate, I think there will be information found at some point that says the Dodgers did something, some sort of cheating. I just feel like in baseball, you don't get ahead without cheating. Whether it be steroids or whether it be sign stealing or whether it be some sort of clicky-clacky thing, I don't know. And it's one of those things where what I hate about it is the fact that the Astros fans are going to be like, ha, they did it, so it's okay that we did it too. But like, my thing is the supposed theory that people have is like the Yankees did it by having like a camera in the bird's eye, at the batter's eye, that could like zoom all the way in to see the or it was like they were using the like camera behind the catcher, like, you know how like MLB like has the cameras for like ballpark cam.
Yep.
My thing is, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that, because cameras are not reliable. Like, if so, I mean,
What
cool,
do you
I
mean by
guess.
cameras are not reliable? In that instance, with it being basically behind the plate?
Think about a camera and the fact that if you're trying to see like hand signals from a pitcher behind a camera with a batter and a catcher and an ump in the way,
It
that
doesn't
ain't gonna
seem.
work.
It would probably be like center field, like the Dodgers or that,
And
like the Astros did.
even that wouldn't work if you didn't have the stupid bang thing
Yeah.
that the Astros had. Because if it's center field, then you're just looking at the back of the pitcher. So, I don't know.
Shane, with this letter, why do you think it took this long for the district court to get involved, and how much more of a situation how much does this affect the MLB now that a U.S. district court, being that it's more of a legal issue now with a lawsuit by these DraftKings players? How does that affect how the MLB and the Yankees feel at this current moment with with the Yankees?
I think more than anything, it just further reinforces this idea that, everyone in baseball cheats, so it's okay, And I mean, it's too bad, really, But the thing is, it's like, now that an actual court is involved in this, I feel like we're finally going to see something come out of it. Because as we've discussed in weeks prior, kind of feels like the MLB isn't taking all this as seriously as they probably should be. So, it's part of like a a cynical part of me always thought, oh, these other teams that are so successful year after year, they must be stealing signs too or something. And to find out that might be the case is kind of it's kind of disappointing as a baseball fan, just seeing what the game has come to, or has it always been like this and we just haven't really known. It's just kind of, the whole thing is really disappointing, but I guess over time we'll see what comes out of it.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that you're pointing out, Shane, is that integrity of the game thing, right? It's like, as you talked about with the Astros, it's like the integrity of the game seems to continue to be ruined with all of these issues, whether it's these proposals or these investigations. But as a district court, it definitely something major could get done, especially if this continues to go through. And maybe the Yankees and MLB will appeal in some sort of way. I don't know, but this could go on for a while. But maybe maybe I should say, it could make a substantial change in how the MLB runs and operates. But only time will tell for that. All right, and we're going now to the last part of our show, as we always do. Our division previews. We're getting close to the end here. I think we have about a couple more weeks left. And we are doing the AFC South today, and we begin with the team that we mentioned at the beginning of the show, talking about Jamal Adams. The Houston Texans finished 10-6, lost to the Chiefs in that tough playoff loss. They were up by 24 in the first half and lost, so a tough loss for the Texans there. Yeah. So, looking at their schedule first, what jumps out for you guys?
Well, that first game against Kansas City will be interesting, to say the least. Their opening 4 games are pretty tough, it looks like. You got Kansas City, Baltimore, top 2 teams in the AFC probably. And Pittsburgh, who's also, on the rise, I would say. And then Minnesota, they're obviously decent. Yeah, this is not a very forgiving schedule other than like Cincinnati and Jacksonville.
I mean, the first 4, let's say like the first 4 seem really tough, or let's say the first half before the bye looks pretty difficult.
Other than Jacksonville.
Right, and then the back half looks doesn't look that bad. Brandon, in terms of Deshaun Watson, losing DeAndre Hopkins, of course, but bringing in Brandon Cooks, do you think they can establish chemistry early, Cooks and Watson? And how important will that be to their success?
I don't know if it really depends that much because I think Deshaun Watson is really good as a quarterback, and I think any good quarterback should be able to acclimate to the players they have around them and get it done, you know?
Shane, do you feel the same way about that?
No. I mean, Deshaun is fantastic. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league, probably, or maybe top 10. I don't. Anyways, he's up there. But just looking at this depth chart, I mean, there's, okay. If you look at last year, right, their whole offense was Deshaun and D-Hop. I mean, really, let's be honest. And now you're missing half of that, and your running game is not as good either. So, yeah, I'm not too hopeful about Houston this year. But who knows? I could be wrong.
Is there a frustration for you also with how Bill O'Brien has managed the organization in the past couple of years as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's a good coach. But I don't necessarily, because he's the general manager as well, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't agree with a lot of his decisions personally in terms of, being a general manager. But, yeah, I don't know. I think they should have someone else in there to. Yeah, the only guy that should be the general manager as well as head coach is someone like Bill Belichick, who really is truly brilliant as a coach, and
But
just has a
is
mind.
Belichick even the general manager?
He
He
is.
is.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So,
Actually, wait, no, I did know that because he had his whole dog thing during that.
Yeah. Brandon, in terms of how Bill O'Brien has handled the personnel for this team as a general manager, have you had the same frustrations as Brandon or as Shane as well?
Yeah, because I think he's a decent coach, but an absolutely atrocious general manager. I mean, you just all you have to do is look at the Clowney situation. I mean, that is all you have to do. Like, you could have gotten something back in a trade if you had traded him, but you bring him back, and then you send him to a team, and you pick up 2 players who are way below his value.
And a third-round pick, which didn't really matter. And I believe a fifth, too. But let's not only talk about the Clowney thing that happened, 2 off seasons ago. Let's talk about that entire week, or maybe even that entire off season, right? You not only Clowney, but the Tunsil deal was weird because it probably would have made more sense to trade Clowney for Tunsil in terms of equal value than trading Clowney to the Seahawks for virtually nothing. And then Tunsil, but you gave away you gave 2 first-round picks and a second.
True.
It's 2 separate trades basically on, I believe that was on the same day, and it was just that was bizarre. And then to trade D-Hop for basically nothing, other than David Johnson, which we don't even know how Bill O'Brien is going to use him here. It's tough to really agree with how he's handling this team personnel-wise. And it's made the team's future a lot murkier, especially for a guy like Deshaun Watson, who definitely deserves a better overall team and a better guy running the personnel department.
Well, that was like on Arizona's end. That's probably the best trade in franchise history.
that's the best trade of the offseason, no question.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, they don't. I mean, they really don't need David Johnson anymore because,
You have Kenyon Drake there.
yes, who is a rising star in my opinion. I've been very impressed with him the times that I've seen him. So
No, absolutely.
yeah,
So in terms of X Factor players, Brandon, who's your X Factor for this team?
I'm gonna go with JJ Watt.
All right. Yep.
Goodness knows how long JJ Watt will be with this team. I mean, I know he just signed a new contract recently, I think. But man, if he doesn't, I mean, he proves every single season that he is like one of the lone shining stars on this team. And frankly, I'm shocked that he hasn't been dealt to another team. Like, I'm shocked, frankly.
Yeah.
I'd go to Pittsburgh if I were him.
Oh yeah, play with his brother too.
Ooh,
Brother,
that'd be a good lot. That would be a great secondary linebacker core.
Yeah. TJ and JJ, right? Yeah. So, and then
Yeah.
you have Derek too, who they'll probably pick up if that's the case.
Just
no, they did.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They did. They picked him up. That is right. Yes.
Derek and DJ are both in Pittsburgh. But anyways,
I mean, basically, the two stars on this team is Deshaun Watson and JJ Watt, pretty much. Shane, who's your X factor for this team?
well, the other star you just mentioned, Deshaun. I mean, defensively, I think they're okay. They got some good names. JJ Watt, obviously. McKinney, I really like where he's going. But yeah, I mean, in terms of in terms of offense, I mean, Deshaun is really, I think, kind of the only the only thing that's really giving them any hope, to be honest.
At least on the offensive side.
Exactly, yeah. Because I mean, I just losing. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to have much of a running game, and I mean the fact that they lost their star receiver. I mean that's it's not good.
Yeah.
So I think they're really going to be looking to Deshaun for some kind of playmaking ability, and yeah.
Let me just overview the team really quick. Of course, Deshaun Watson, as you guys mentioned, David Johnson and Duke Johnson, a good 1-2 punch, but again, this is not going to be a team that's going to be focused on the running game. Yes, it was nice. They had Carlos Hyde last year as well, so they are comfortable with the 1-2 punch, but it's not incredible. The receiving core is interesting. Will Fuller, of course, who played a good role when he was healthy, but notoriously unhealthy, unfortunately. Last year, he missed most of the season. I think he missed 12 or 13 games. Brandon Cooks, they picked up, again, injury concerns, concussion issues. Kenny Stills is a nice piece. Kiki Kuti, I love Kiki. I think he doesn't get enough shine, doesn't get enough playing time. The guy is a young player that can really rise if he gets the opportunity. He just hasn't had it. Darren Fells is best as a role playing tight end. Yeah, he's nice in the red zone, but that's about it. I think they should look for a better tight end still if they can. This line was still remarkably disappointing last year. Laramie Tunsil's a nice fit, but I expected more from Titus Howard. He's my X Factor player last year. But this offensive line still looks very atrocious at this moment. This defense is nice. Linebacking core, I really like their linebacking core as a whole. Gary and Conley, not a great fit with the Raiders. I don't even think the Texans have used him very well either. I think they just picked up Bradley Roby as well. And Vernon Hartgraves, I just don't know if they're going to use them at their perfect I don't know. I just feel like this group doesn't mesh very well together. This secondary doesn't feel like it's going to work out as well as it should. Yes, it can be productive, but it can only be productive in the right situation. And unfortunately with Bill O'Brien, yes, he's a defensive coach, but I just don't see this secondary playing as well as they should. But my X factor, it's going to be Will Fuller. He just has to stay healthy. Him and Brandon Cooks can be very productive if they both stay healthy. And I think that's what's going to matter for Deshaun. It's all about, do these guys stay healthy? And if they do, Deshaun won't have too much of a problem offensively. I don't think it will be as bad. Yes, it won't be as great as if you have Hopkins there, but I do think he can still be really productive if both of these guys can stay healthy long term. All right, let's move on to our next team on our list here, and that is the Tennessee Titans. Went to the AFC Championship game. Big surprise there. Shane, you were not too excited about Ryan Tannehill when he got the starting job, but how important was he to getting them to that championship game?
Yeah, I think I think I made a joke about how if he started, I would stop watching football. Because at the time, right, he was, that was when he was in Miami, and we were all like, oh, Tannehill, really? But anyways, yeah, I mean, he fit very nicely into this scheme. I mean, things definitely came together once he entered the equation. Granted, I think part of that has to do with the fact that Derrick Henry also happened to get really hot at that time. But anyways, regardless, I'm glad they, found their guy and that he kind of had a bit of a revitalization of his career, if you will. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing him play the full season and to see if it was just, everything happened all too perfectly, or if they are the real deal. It could be either or. So I'm looking forward to that.
Brandon, what was your thoughts on Tannehill last year, and also what do you think about the schedule that they have here?
I didn't really pay that much attention to Tannehill last year until obviously like the playoffs. And I'd say this schedule seems pretty doable,
It really doesn't look that bad at all.
They have like maybe one or two really hard games that I'd be like, nah, they ain't gonna be able to win it, which is like Green Bay.
And Baltimore.
Yeah, Green Bay and Baltimore. Maybe Buffalo. But those are it, really. I think they should be favored in most of their games other than those three. But
yeah, I really liked Tannehill last year. A lot of people gave Tannehill a lot of flack for not throwing the ball as much. He didn't really need to. This team is built on Derrick Henry. It's just that simple. The contract extension, I don't know about that yet. I still feel like he earned the contract extension, but one more full season like he did last year. If he can play as good as he did last year, Tannehill, I'll be happy with the extension. If not, a year from now, we're going to have a much different conversation, not only about Tannehill, but about the contract. So it's one of those things where, yes, he was great and he deserved the money he got. But if he has a bad year this year, we're going to be talking about the contract next year. Shane, did you have a comment on that?
I was going to say it just might have been too soon.
Do you have that feeling with the contract?
No, I mean, I don't have an issue with it. I would have wanted to see him play a full year before I just went out and said, okay, here's $100 million.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if someone, like Tannehill proved himself, but it's like before last year he hadn't really done much, and he wasn't considered like amazing. For me, it's kind of a now can you do that for the whole season? It's like, can you have a full season of doing it like this and prove that you really are as good as you showed you are in the playoffs?
Again, I'm fine with the contract. I was kind of all in with the contract after what he did in the playoffs, so I'm not going to shy away from it. I think the contract is fine. I know a lot of people also feel a bit frustrated about Derrick Henry's deal, but as is being reported, that negotiation is actually going very well. So I imagine that they'll get that deal done. But if he has a bad year, we could have a much different conversation about the contract. X Factor players, Shane, you can go first here for the Titans.
I mean, I think it's got to be Derrick Henry. It's like him and McCaffrey are the only two running backs that I feel are more significant than their quarterback. And I mean, you definitely know it because he really does make a huge difference when he's on the field. I mean, the guy's a machine. You can't stop him. So having him playing and healthy is it's very, very crucial, I think, to this team and to their success, at least offensively.
Brannan, who is your X Factor for this team?
I would say my X Factor would be probably Ryan Tannehill.
It'd be Tannehill for you.
Because I think he needs to just play well, and they really need to have a quarterback who can get it done.
Yeah.
So.
Overview of the team really quick. Of course, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, as you guys mentioned. I love AJ Brown. He's incredible. I think him and Ryan Tannehill really played well last year. I expect that to continue. As for Corey Davis, they gave him his fifth-year option. This is it for him. The reality is he's not that good of a player, and they like him in Tennessee, but he hasn't developed the way they would have hoped. Adam Humphries needs a much bigger role. They paid him too much money for him not to have a bigger role. He needs to have it this year. Love Jonnu Smith. This offense has some nice young pieces on this receiving core, but again, Corey Davis, Adam Humphries need a bigger role, need to do a lot more. But Jonnu Smith and A.J. Brown I absolutely love. This line not as great as past years, but it's still solid enough. This defense can only be best described as the island of misfit toys. Jeffrey Simmons comes back from injury this year, fully healthy. I think he started playing around week 13, week 14. Played remarkably well last year. Vic Beasley, another one of those island of misfit toys guys, had one great year his rookie year in Atlanta, then tapered off. Rashawn Evans is great. Harold Landry's a nice piece. Jaylen Brown, these linebacking core looks good. Malcolm Butler's not good. The reality is he's overpaid. He's not great. Kenny Vaccaro is average as well, but this defense runs out what is the most important based on off one guy, and that's Kevin Byard. He is one of the most underrated safeties in the NFL. He's an incredible player. I highly recommend watching a highlight tape of this guy because he is ridiculous. He's an interception machine. Adoree Jackson is best known as a punt returner, pretty much. But my X Factor is going to be A.J. Brown. He's just incredible. He just had a great year. It's that simple. The guy's very fast, very quick. The perfect kind of player that Ryan Tannehill likes to play with at receiver. And it showed last year. I think he can make an even bigger impact. But if you want to look at an X Factor for the defense, it'd be Kevin Byard. But we already know about the greatness of Kevin Byard, even if it's underrated. So I'll go with A.J. Brown. All right, so two more teams left here. And let's see, we are moving on to the Colts. And we forgot to mention that, of course, the Colts signed Phillip Rivers during our schedule release. That was my bad. I'll take all the blame for that. But let's talk about Phillip Rivers. Brandon, I'll start with you. Phillip Rivers to the Colts. How did you feel about the move when it was announced, and how important is he to their success?
I felt like it was a weird move because I feel like Jacoby Brissett had kind of been holding it down for a while. I don't know. I feel like the Colts feel like they can just bring in a veteran quarterback who's had some mild success in his career and be like, "Woo, we got our great guy. We're gonna be so good now." And it's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't buy it. It feels like a team that really, even when they had Andrew Luck, really needed a lot of work, and they need even more work now.
Shane, do you feel the same way about this team, and also highlight their schedule as well?
Yeah, the Colts are interesting to me because I think they're a lot better than 7-9. But to me, the place where they really, I guess, underperformed is quarterback and running back somewhat. Not that Brissett is bad necessarily, but I don't know. I had a feeling that over the offseason they would get somebody, like an old veteran type player.
Which they did with Rivers, pretty much.
Yes, and I knew that they were an option for Rivers, so when I heard that they signed him, I was not surprised at all. But I could see. I guess I could see them improving a bit, but I don't think considering how much he's declined himself, I don't think he's the guy that is going to do that for him just for 1 year going in and helping out, if you will.
I think he signed a 2-year deal, did he?
No, just one.
It's a 1 year, so it's a prove it deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they got Eason, and I'm looking forward to, because I assume he'll start one day, like in a year or two. And so, he's totally a pro style quarterback just with his physique and his arm. So I'm very excited to see where the team goes from there with him, should that happen. So, yeah, anyways, they still got some great veterans, especially on defense. So yeah, it'll be an interesting year for sure with this team.
Brandon, in terms of Jacob Eason, I know you were high on him going much earlier than he did. I feel like the Colts are a perfect fit for him long term. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I was really excited when the Colts took him. I think he's in a good position where he will get to learn from a veteran. I guess you could say two veterans, and Jacoby Brissett and Phillip Rivers. He doesn't have to start right away. And I think down the line, year or two, he'll get to start and he'll be able to prove himself. I think we'll see. I'm sure we'll see some action from him in the preseason. But
if we get the 2 games,
right? If we get I think it's supposed to be 3 games.
Either way,
but we'll see.
Shane, you can go first for X Factor for this team.
I'm gonna say, well, I would say Phillip Rivers, but I don't think that he's gonna perform at the level that they need him to. I'll just be honest. But I will say T.Y. Hilton, Yeah, because I think this guy's one of the more underrated receivers, and just he's very versatile as a player, and he's been in that locker room for a long time. I think the guys really look up to him, and I think that he'll be pretty critical in terms of the passing game if they want to have success. Especially deep and whatnot. So he would be my guy, but there are a couple other guys that I could go with as well, like DeForest Buckner and whatever. But I'll say T.Y. Hilton officially on the record at 4:14 p.m. on June 18th.
Brannan, who are you taking on the record here?
I would say I'm gonna go with Ty.
You're going to go Ty as
Because I
well.
think Ty, he just needs to stay healthy.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, when he's healthy, he's a beast. I mean, I had him a couple years in fantasy, and
I tried to trade for him last year.
He goes off when he's healthy.
Yeah.
But he's just been so injury prone the last couple years that yeah. So Ty's my guy.
All right, so I feel bad for looking this up, but I had to look up the GM of the Colts because he's a top 5 GM in the NFL. Chris Ballard. He has done wonders with this organization. The team looks so much better than it did whenever Andrew Luck was taking the snaps for them. This O-line is incredible. It's a top 5 O-line. Anthony Costanzo is great. Quinn Nelson is a Pro Bowler. Braden Smith, Ryan Kelly, Mark Lewinsky. This O-line is incredible. Receiving wise, I love what they've done here. You got Ty, of course. Even if he doesn't stay healthy, they're expecting huge things out of Michael Pittman this year, the pick out of USC, who is very underrated. We can all agree, and I know you guys watching the Pac-12 more than I do can agree that Michael Pittman's a great prospect, and he was very underrated, partially because of how bad USC has been pretty much throughout his time there. Paris Campbell's excellent. He's very underrated, and Zach Pascal is also a great receiver. This is a nice receiving core with T.Y. Hilton in or not. Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. Jonathan Taylor is going to play significant snaps probably after week 12, I would imagine. He's definitely going to get that number one job by the end of the year, even though I love Marlon Mack. Jack Doyle and Trey Burton, good 1-2 punch. They're also expecting more out of Mo Alley Cox, who also played basketball for VCU, if you guys can remember that, in March Madness when VCU was incredible. Justin Houston, DeForest Buckner, of course. Ben Banigou's pretty good as a young player. Danico Autry as well. This linebacking core is good. It's very young. So pretty much this whole secondary as well is very young with Rocky Sin. Malik Hooker still developing. He was in some trade rumors as well because he hasn't developed as well as the Colts would have hoped, but I don't expect him to get moved. Let's see. My X factor is going to be Jonathan Taylor. I really think he'll step in about week 12 and get some running back minutes for them and be the more productive back in this system. And if Phillip Rivers has a productive guy in the backfield, as Phillip had with guys like Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon, if he has that with Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack as well, I think it could really benefit him. So I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor. And our last team here on the books is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Greatest team in the NFL.
The greatest team in the NFL. That's your thought process, Shane, here? What is your real thought process specifically focused on the quarterback position with Gardner Minshew, excuse me?
I think they're actually the worst team, or one of the worst teams in the NFL. I mean, I don't think Gardner Minshew is that bad. I mean, he's not he's not amazing, but his numbers were decent. I mean, there's just I think they've just been in this like eternal rebuild mode, and I don't see that getting better this year because they didn't. I mean, they didn't add to me other than like C.J. Henderson. Or wait, no.
Yeah, it would be Henderson.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. I think he's a good addition. Then, of course, they got guys like Miles Jack. He's decent. And then Leonard Fournette when he's healthy, of course. But I don't know. I mean, I just don't. It's kind of like the Redskins, where they just don't really have any particular guys that like stand out, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's great or whatever. I just don't really get that with this team, and I think it's going to be a while until they kind of dig their way out of this giant hole that they're in.
I mean, Jalen Ramsey is a perfect example of this, of why this team is, so uninspiring and doesn't have many big names. It's just because all the big names, basically minus Fournette, left.
Yeah.
And it shows to the difficulty of this organization, just players just not really wanting to be there because the organization is in such a hole. I'll highlight the schedule real quick. There's not much here. I mean, it's a solid schedule. It's a schedule where they can be competitive in most games, but I just don't know what to get out of Gardner Minshew. Yes, we went through Minshew mania, but when the push came to shove with Gardner Minshew after 10 weeks, I kind of had to eat my words because here's the deal. He's a bridge quarterback and nothing else.
Oh, he got hurt. What are you gonna? How are you gonna talk crap about Minshew mania, baby?
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
Well, the most famous thing about him is his mustache.
Whatever. Minshew mania is gonna run wild on you next year, and you know it.
Do you really believe that? Do you feel like Gardner is going to be the franchise guy?
Oh, yeah, brother. What you gonna do when Minshew mania runs wild on you?
So you feel like Minshew is the real deal for this team long term?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like he's the best option they've had in a while.
It certainly is the best option, but I don't look at Gardner like nothing. I don't know. At towards the end of the year, I mean, before he got hurt, he just sort of kind of fell off, and I don't think this is the right coaching staff to develop him. There's a reason why they brought back the coaching staff this year. It's because they feel like they can develop Minshew. If there was another coaching staff in there, like if they hired somebody like Ron Rivera, I would feel much, much more comfortable with this situation. But right now, I don't. With this coaching staff, I just don't. Brandon, I'll start with you for XFactors for the Jaguars.
DJ Chark.
Yeah, good pick. Good young receiver, right? That's kind of what you're looking for with him.
Basically, he's their best guy. He's, he's young, he's fast, he's talented.
And also, him and Minshew had an incredible connection last year as well.
True.
Shane, who do you have?
I'll say C.J. Henderson. Just
yeah,
I think they need a guy like him to just kind of bring some life and some young blood into this defense, and I think he's got a good chance of doing that.
I mean, the biggest thing with CJ, right, is like, all right, how do we replace the AJ Boya is gone as well, not just Jalen Ramsey. How to replace that? Henderson, I think, where they draft him at, like 20, around the 20s or something. But it wasn't a bad pick. He's a good corner. I think he can develop well in this system. They've obviously done a great job at developing corners, clearly. But looking at this team, the receiving core is great. I like Keelan Cole. I like DJ Chark, obviously, D.D. Westbrook, Chris Conley's not bad. Laviska Shenault hopefully will have a much bigger role, the rookie out of Colorado. A lot of teams pegged him as a bust. I don't feel that way. I think he's a good receiver. He just needs to get his opportunities, and I think with this team he will. Leonard Fournette, I feel like in a year he's out. I don't think they're going to come to an extension. And there's a reason I think why they brought Chris Thompson in. Clearly, bringing in Chris Thompson says something because they brought him in like a couple days after. I believe they declined Fournette's option, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they did. So I don't think Fournette's there long term. I don't think Chris Thompson is their guy, but he is there now. Tyler Eifert's career is basically done. He's not the same player. This line isn't bad. Still has a lot more development left to do. But Andrew Norwell and Brandon Linder have been there for a long time. Cam Robinson, not the best, but Javon Taylor and AJ Kane could still develop a little bit. This defense is where this team shines. They brought, of course, Josh Allen. Yannick Ngakoue is great. I don't think he'll be there long term, but they also have Caleb Chase on, who's nice, and he'll probably step in if Ngakoue leaves, which seems more than likely. Ronnie Harrison isn't too bad, but of course, as Shane highlighted, CJ Henderson. Let's see who I'm gonna go with here. I'll go with Josh Allen. I'll highlight the defense. Josh Allen was great last year. Didn't get as much pub in the national media as he should. I think this year he'll pop even more and play a lot better. But clearly, clearly the theme with this team is really simple. It's just a bunch of players that are probably on their way out. And I forgot to mention Joe Schobert, who's really nice as well. He was a Pro Bowler with the Browns. But yeah, this team's theme is very simple. It's a bunch of players that are not going to be there in a year or two time, basically. Do you guys feel the same way with that?
Yeah, for a lot of them, probably.
Yeah. All right, and that is actually there we go. I missed it again. Haha. We are doing No, I got you. We are doing our record predictions as always, and I always miss them. This is a trend now for some random reason. But record predictions for the AFC South. Shane, you are welcome to go first.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I think this is Tennessee's division this year. Now that they kind of have their plan established, it seems like, at least. I think they could win 12 or 13 games, but I don't totally know because, again, I want to actually see them play a full year.
So 12-4, let's say.
I'll play it safe and say 11-5.
All right.
I could change my mind on that, and then I think that they'll win. I think the Colts will jump up to second, and I think they'll finish around 500, and then I think Houston will come in at about 7-9, and then Jacksonville I think will be about 5-11.
Brandon, you're next. Who do you have?
Honestly, I would say, yeah, I think I'm the same with Shane. I would say maybe I think the Colts could probably do a little bit better than 8-8, so like 9-7. But I think the Texans will be about the same, 7-9, and then yeah.
You pretty much agree with the rest.
Yeah.
In terms of Houston, where is that down stemming from? Because, I mean, Deshaun Watson can easily get this team about 10, 11 wins, and that's kind of how I feel with this team.
You can have the best players ever, but if you don't have the right coaching,
Mm-hmm. So, Brandon, with Houston, you said 7-9, right? Or, yeah. 7-9, yep. Yeah, so is it mostly coaching for you as well, Shane, and not as much Deshaun Watson, even though he's talented enough to get this team wins?
No, it's not necessarily Deshaun. It's just, or even the coaching, really. But I mean, they don't. Their run game took a big hit, and their pass game, really. I mean, they'll probably be fine, but I don't know. I mean, D-Hop was a huge piece for them. And I mean, their secondary is not the best. And then, I mean, they're same with their D line, other than JJ Watt, and knowing him will probably get hurt halfway through the season. So
Maybe.
yeah,
I hope not.
Well, I don't know, but anyways, he has a history. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I just don't. I don't think there's, and I mean, you can tell that Deshaun is kind of butthurt about Diop leaving. So I'm not.
As he should be. I mean,
Well,
those two
yeah,
had
I
a
mean,
great big connection.
but yeah, I'm not. I mean, I don't think that they'll be terrible, but just like 7-9, 8-8, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Around 500. Just kind of meh.
I agree with most of this, other than I feel like Houston wins the division at 11-5 or 12-4.
Really?
I still think Houston wins this division. Yeah.
Despite Tennessee?
Despite what the Titans did last year, I still think Houston finds a way. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Houston always just seems to win this division, regardless of how this division looks, regardless of how their team looks. They always find a way to win this division. Keep in mind, Tennessee did not have a great regular season. They finished 9-7, right? The Texans still won this division. This division is the Texans to lose. Let's put it that way, because they've always found a way to win this division.
May I object?
Yes, please.
So, no, Tennessee did not have a great regular season, but when Tannehill came in, the number of wins skyrocketed, because in the beginning half of the season they were like 2 and
because the Mariota was in there.
Yeah, or they were like 2-5 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad, and then they won like 4 straight and whatever. So if you just look at when Tannehill was in there, I think that changes things a bit.
Yeah. I just look at this entire division and say, I don't see how Houston doesn't win it. I just don't.
Based off of history.
It's just how it's how the history of this division works with Bill O'Brien and Deshaun Watson. They just find a way to win this division. Does that mean they win a playoff game or two? Maybe they win a wild card in this sort of system that we're having this year, but they don't go farther than the divisional round. And maybe Tennessee goes far. I don't know. I think more than likely you'll probably see the Ravens and the Chiefs match up in the AFC title game this year. But Tennessee is definitely going to be more competitive than Houston in the playoffs. But in terms of regular season, I just don't see how Houston loses this. Brandon, do you have an objection to this before we head out?
I think Shane pretty much covered it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. That's.
Yeah, you guys are clearly not. You guys are on the same page, and I'm definitely the minority here. But that is it for today. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Brandon. As always, we'll be back next week. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Nice and sunny out today, but everyone stay safe. That's always the number one priority, especially during this time. Same with you and your families, Shane and Brandon, as well. So have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you.